is that there's certain parts of the exercise that sometimes are harder than the other. You know, sometimes it's really hard to work the bottom half of an exercise. Sometimes the lockout can be pretty hard. It depends on what exercises you're doing and how they're set up. And one strategy that you can use is using different parts of the strength curve. And this isn't new, like this has been around for years. And the way it used to be in magazines was you had a mid-range part of the range of motion, then you had a top end, like a lockout, then you had like the beginning part of the range of motion. That's kind of the simple version of it. So what we did today was we used this Prime hammer machine that allows us to do this. Now you may not have one of these, but I'm going to explain to you how to simulate this. So on this Prime machine, you'll notice there's 3 pegs on it. You'll notice the first set we did, we had weight on the middle. So that's the mid-range part of the exercise. That's kind of the normal, standard, stress the middle part of the range of motion. And then what we did was we did some sets with the weight on the bottom peg. And what happens when you're doing those is the weight is a lot easier out of the bottom, but it becomes harder to lock out. So you're working the top end of the range of motion where you're contracted. And then we finished with the weight on the top. So that is just the opposite. It's really hard to get the weight moving. It's really hard out of the bottom. Once you get it out of the bottom, the weight gets significantly lighter. So you're working kind of the beginning part of the range of motion. So now, I know that 99% of you probably don't have a machine like that. But what I want to do is I want to show you a way to simulate this. So we're going to pick 3 exercises that you could put into your chest routine. And one of them is going to stress the mid-range part of the range of motion. One's going to stress the beginning, and one's going to stress the end. So this is a way, it's a strategy you could just use to train your chest. And we've been using this actually a lot lately, like I said, the last 4 to 6 weeks. So I think you're going to enjoy this. So now let's talk about 3 things you can do to simulate this. All right, now, I know you don't have that Prime machine, but here, most people have some kind of seated press machine. This is a selectorized stack here. This would be good for the mid-range part of the range of motion. So this would be a great way to start your chest workout. So just start off with the machine, right? So this here, it's not overly heavy at the beginning or at the top. It's just a good, smooth, even distribution across the range of motion. So first thing is just find a normal machine like this. That's a great way to start. You're going to do something like 3 to 4 pretty hard sets here. All right, so now we want to move on to a top part of the range of motion exercise. And we're going to use a floor press. To me, this is one of the most underrated exercises. I absolutely love these. We do them a lot for triceps in the powerlifting world, but they're also great for a chest contraction. So again, we're working the top half of the movement now. So we're going to really work hard on this floor press. Now, for your last exercise, you're going to do something that really emphasizes the stretch. So the bottom part, really getting a real extreme stretch, good range of motion. You're going to notice Chris is doing a tri-set of 3 exercises. Now, you don't have to do that. I just wanted to give you some options of exercises you can choose from. So you could use a dumbbell press. Dumbbells are it's a lot easier to get more of a range of motion at the bottom with a dumbbell than a barbell, obviously. So you could do that. Or you could do a feet out in front dip. I have a little bit of a different style here when we do dips. It's more kind of Vince Garanda-esque, where we put our feet out in front, let our elbows kind of travel out to the side. You'll notice Chris isn't coming up all the way. That's intentional. We're trying to work, again, the stretch. And then a cambered bar push-up is another option for you. So the goal in these is to touch your chest to the camber. So that's the curve at the bottom of the curve in the middle of the bar. So that'll allow you to open it up really good. So again, you don't have to do all 3 of these. Pick one that you really like, and that'll do it. So that's strategy number 1. It's simply working different parts of the range of motion. The mid-range part, the top end, and the beginning, the stretch. And you know what? It's really fun. It's really fun. I think you'll enjoy this. So set up your workouts like this. Try some of these. 3 or 4 sets of exercise once every 4 or 5 days. You should be go. Now let's move on to strategy number 2. Okay, so your next strategy is all around angles. This is another really fun way to train. So what you're going to see us doing today is we're using various angles on the dumbbell presses. So you're going to see us use a slight incline. You're going to see us use a slight decline and a flat angle. And as you do these, each angle actually feels really different. Even though we're not changing angle that much, you'll notice it feels very, very different. So this is something else we've been doing that I really enjoy. So really what we've been doing is the strategy one I walked you through, we'll do that. And then we'll kind of do the angles that we're getting ready to talk about. We've kind of been going back and forth. It feels really good. So you're going to pick an angle. For us, we're starting with a slight incline. We have a plate underneath one end of the bench that gives us a little bump in the incline. That to me is like the best angle for your chest. Now, I know a lot of people watching this are going to say, well, that's more dictated by your elbow path and things like that. And that's right, absolutely it is. But changing these angles is really nice. So start off with a slight incline. That's going to be your first angle. So we're going to hit 3 to 4 sets. That's what your workout would be, 3 to 4 sets starting there. Okay, now we're going to move to the next angle, which is a slight decline. Those of you who have issues with your shoulders, this is like a miracle angle to take stress off your shoulders. So we took that plate that was underneath one end of the bench and we just moved it to the other end. So now we're on a slight decline. Same thing, 3 or 4 sets here. It'll just changing that angle that much, you're going to feel like you're just going to come flying off the bench, sliding off. But a little different angle. Again, this is fun. I think you'll enjoy it. So 3 to 4 sets on a slight decline. By the way, I always like to give credit to Dorian Yates for these. Dorian Yates is the first one that I ever heard talk about a slight decline. And I think he was right on the money. It's a great angle. Okay, now we're going to go to a flat angle. So it's just a standard flat bench. So we did a slight decline, or no, slight incline, slight decline, now we're doing flat. And again, I know this looks like small angles, but wait till you do this. It feels totally different on each way you do this. So 3 or 4 sets here, and that'll cover 3 different angles for your chest. So real quick before I move on to the third strategy, I was thinking about something on those angles. Like when I started lifting in the 80s, what we got in the magazines, all the workouts are really similar. It was a flat bench, it was an incline, it was a decline. So again, this isn't rocket science I'm talking about here. It was a strategy that's been around for a long time. Now they use more barbells back then. Barbells, if you use this strategy, just be careful. That's a lot of beating on your shoulder joint. I like to do this strategy more with dumbbells myself. But anyways, so I just wanted to mention that. I was thinking about the old Lee Haney and Arnold routines where they would do flat and inclined, then either decline or dips. Now the third strategy, I don't really need to show you an exercise. It's involved. It's around repetitions. So, you know, it's a 15 to 20 rep range. It's a 10 to 15 rep range, and it's a 6 to 10 rep range. So you can pick whatever exercises you want. Pick your 3 favorite exercises, and one of them work 15 to 20, one of them works 10 to 15, and then one of them works 6 to 10. Now, there's some good reasoning for mixing those reps up. If you're always doing the 6, 7, or 8s, it tends to get a little bit harder on your joints. It tends to beat you up a little bit. If you are using the higher rep range, let's say you're doing the 15 to 20, I want you to think about that logically. Like, think about how much it burns and how hard it is to do a hard set of 20. And now imagine doing that over 3 exercises for all 3 of your sets. Let's say you do 9 sets for chest. Imagine doing 9 sets of 20 where every rep is hard. So to me, the lighter weight on the higher reps is actually probably even harder than the heavier weight for lighter reps, because it's so tempting to quit when it starts burning, but you really get the benefit of the lighter weight of going to failure, so you get maximum activation out of your muscle fibers. Your muscle fibers don't need to produce as much force with a lighter weight, so they're not engaged. All of them are not engaged, but as you fatigue, more get called into play. This is just basic science. This is nothing unique, just basic stuff. So I think it's good to mix the repetitions up. Now, how you do it, you can get pretty creative too. You could take a barbell exercise, and instead of doing the heavy 6, you could use the 15 to 20s for that. And then on something you might only do, or something you might do for like 20, maybe you do that for 6 to 8. So I would invite you to be creative with the exercises that you pick for the rep ranges. You could start off with the higher reps and then go medium and then go low, or you could do the lower reps first. You could go your low reps, your medium reps, and your high reps. Again, that's up to you. Now, if you have joint issues, I would probably do the 15 to 20s first and then finish with some of your more compound barbell movements last for your sets of 6, because you're warmed up. Yeah, you may not do as much weight, but that's just fatigue. That's just fatigue. It doesn't mean you're weak. It just means your muscle fibers are tired. If you're young and full of energy and you feel awesome, Then you might go ahead and go real heavy, do the 6s first. But that's another strategy that's very simple, involved in changing repetitions. Again, doing high repetitions all the time. I think it's a tough strategy to pull off. Doing the heavy stuff all the time, you can pull it off. I see all the guys on Instagram doing their sets of 5 and 6, and guess what? Then they're messaging about how they tore their lat, they tore their quad, they tore their pec. So you can only handle so much of that. I want you guys to be smart. I want you to put some more thought into how you're structuring your reps. So those are really the 3 strategies.